Hi, how are you?
Hello, hi Nitin. I'm good. How are you?
Very good. So, welcome to today's session. Now, first question I have with you is I'm not starting with the session. How do you pronounce your firm's name? Is it Jam Story or J+AM Story?
So you pronounce it like Jam Story. Basically, we are two partners, me Janashi and my partner Amit. So AM stands for his initials, J stands for mine. So
Okay.
it's like J plus AM. So we pronounce it like Jam Story.
Okay, so I was contemplating how I should introduce you. So I'll just
Okay.
introduce you to our viewers today. So today we have with us Jaanshi Bhatia. She is from J+AM or Jam Story. It's a New Delhi-based architectural firm, and she's running the firm along with her partner, which is Mr. Amit Bhatia, I suppose.
Yeah.
And both of them have been into commercial, residential, and multifaceted projects, and they believe in doing a lot of innovative work. And today's topic for us is effective fenestration through improved designs and systems. Right? Anything that you'd like to say about your firm, Janshi?
So yeah, as you mentioned, we are a young budding firm. We started our practice 2 years back, and we are doing architectural and interior projects based in New Delhi and NCR regions, and we're doing residential, commercial offices. And yeah, our main aim is to like grow our team, bring in new projects, and so we're working hard onto it.
Great. So let's start with our today's session. So the
Yeah.
first question is that what role obviously does the fenestration systems play in your design conceptualization for a new project?
So basically, Nitin, we have to understand that fenestrations are a lot more than just the openings in the wall. So when you look into a bigger picture, you see you have a rich user experience using fenestration. So as a designer, as an architect, when we plan the design, so when we plan the spaces and keeping in mind a good layout, so we try to connect the spaces through visual views and transparency. So fenestration is that fine line that breaks the interior and exterior, and hence it creates a seamless boundary. So yeah, first is it definitely merges the indoor and outdoor views. Moving on, the most important aspect is that it helps the inflow of natural light. So they say like let the sunshine peep in through that window. So it's specifically because it allows more daylight, more comfort, aesthetic views. It lifts the ambience very well, and it has some healthy psychological factors as well. Many people have a claustrophobic view, something. So it surrounds the environment in a very harmonious way. And other than that, and of course, it allows the entry of natural air to pass, and that helps it enables the natural ventilation. So majorly, yeah, these 3 points: the views, the light, and the ventilation.
Okay, so you've made my job easy because normally I end up kind of articulating the three key points of the answer.
Don't worry.
That-
I'll summarize the point wise in every question.
All right. So, okay, so basically what we are talking about is merging the interiors with the exteriors. That is your key aspect towards, designing the fenestration in a building, wherein you want people or inhabitants to be more close to their, external habitat, basically. So
Right.
all these things, either it is views, either it is sunlight, or either it is something else, ultimately it all boils down to kind of connecting more with the nature and the outside when we are working inside or living inside,
Yeah.
right? So let's move on to the next question. So, based on your experience, how would you define effective fenestration? How do you go about bringing out the real efficiency from the designing of fenestration in your projects?
See, like every project demands a different criteria. So when it comes to different kinds of projects, we have to see that fenestration changes with different climate, with different context, in what typology it is based on, what is the orientation of the building, the directions, of course, northern and southern lights, and moreover, the sizes of the openings. So if you want to pick a perfect window, then it should balance the functionality and aesthetics majorly. For example, we all know that doors and windows are ideal for controlling the natural light, but what kind of light we want from the fenestrations to get in, and what amount of light, that people doesn't really understand. So when we talk about light, there are different kinds of light. Either you want a direct sunlight, you want a diffused light. Now there are so many different categories, like you can have skylights above the ceiling, or maybe perforated lights. That is the light which are when we put jalis or screen in a building, the perforated light, that is called the perforation light. So if we have a clerestory windows above, so those are called clerestory lights. So the size, the opening, and the context depends on the kind of openings we are doing, in the sense, if you want a slider door or window, if we would want to put it on a pivot, for example. Many architects, they put a fixed glazing, and generally on the upper part they put a pivot, so that when the hot air rises up, it's easy for the ventilation purpose as well, and you have the view. So yeah, that's one part. The second part is, I'll talk about the directions. The orientation plays a very vital role. For example, the direction specifically, we all know that another light doesn't have a direct sun hit, so the heat gain and the thermal comfort is more towards the northern light. So we try to place the fenestrations in the north direction. So talking about the context now, see, for example, I'll give you a few examples. If there is a residence placed next to the street, so the main purpose for the client would be to block and obstruct the traffic view, to work on the noise, and he would want to have a fenestration which will be helpful in the acoustic treatment. Whereas, for example, if there is a retail shop, and you and the client and the owner wants to showcase the products more, so that's the first impression of a user, to have a look at the products more, then you would have a bigger openings, and that would be the first aesthetic, and first impression, I would say. So majorly, the answer to your question is, the fenestration design generally depends on different criteria, where the site is based, about context, location, the amount of light, the orientation, thermal insulation. So these factors.
Okay, so I like to add on to that answer. I think in the initial part of your conversation, you mentioned about passive ways of containing light inside the building by using either jali shutters, or for that matter, I think it can be chhajas as well. So in addition to that, what we can in fact tell our viewers is that they can also look at the option of using a more effective low emissivity glasses. Sometimes it
Yeah.
happens that modern elevation does not allow you to give a chhaja or a jali in front. There they can look at using glasses in which they can play with either the SHGC, which is the solar heat gain coefficient, or I would say the VLT, visual light transmittance. Now the difference between the two is that in cold climates, people prefer a higher SHGC. Why? Because they want more heat inside. And in summer climates, or let's say where there is heat all across the year, or majorly part of the year, they prefer to have a low SHGC. So they can also play around with glasses other than what options probably you mentioned in your answer.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right. So let's go on to the next question. Now, okay, we talked about how do you go about designing fenestration, how do you go about making them more efficient. So the third one is, what are the challenges that you face while you're designing your projects in terms of fenestration?
Okay, so like if I'm the client and I'm the user, so the first thing which really comes as a challenge is that if we want a bigger opening, we want nice light. The only concern is climate, because of the heat gains. People, we are very reluctant to go for bigger openings. They say because there's a lot of heat trap and there's the thermal discomfort. So this is the biggest challenge. I think heat and sound insulation should be really good enough to improve the fenestrations. That is the challenge. Second is the feasibility and accessibility. For example, we have, as you mentioned, like in different typologies, we have extreme climates, either too cold or too hot. So yeah, it's difficult for people to cater to the design context. So it's not quite easily accessible. Then I have met a client who wanted to have a glass wall curtain in the exterior facade of the building. But the only the challenge he faced was uh, hope the rain and the water and the air doesn't enters through the building facade, because it's so it should be like weather resistant. So at the same time, it should not allow the dust, air, and water to peep in. So yeah, durability is another challenge. For example, we should work on more materials to make it more durable. Uh, I think these are the basically more 2, 3 challenges the fenestration
Yeah.
faces.
What I get the answer is primarily, I would say most of the customers are not well informed of the various
Yes,
materials available in the industry, which makes them question a new product which is being recommended by an architect. And that
yeah,
is where
yeah,
all the questions come in, wherein whether, water, air, or other things will infiltrate through that particular glazing or not. What is a more
yes,
durable material? Why? Because coming from a background where most of the customers have been using wood, they personally feel that wood is more durable than any metal window. You
definitely,
know,
yes,
what is missing there is basically the science behind wood as well as the science behind, a metallic product. Because any
yeah.
engineer probably certify for any customer which is a better material. I wouldn't go and say aluminium because it will look I am biased towards aluminium. But yes,
That is
what
because yeah, because actually, Nitin, that is the mindset of the people. It's a new material, and not new as such. Aluminium is a very old material, but people doesn't know the properties of really the aluminium. It's like easily recyclable. Very few people know that it's easily recyclable, and it's one of the most durable material for the fenestration. So yeah, that's why they're reluctant and they want to go with the wood itself.
correct. And then so far they are not really able to get around the fact that whether it will be water resistant and air resistant. So what is missing here is obviously the knowledge about the product at the end of the day. Now this leads me to the next question. So I probably made a ground for my next question, that now that these challenges are there and we know about them, how do you think we can overcome them? Now, we know that you being and we being vendors, or for that matter, we are engineers ourselves, so we understand the technicalities around the product. But how do we go around explaining it to a customer who is neither an architect, neither sometimes from an engineering background? So what do we do to make them more aware of about the various options? It's not only about fenestration, but maybe many other materials which today are very upgraded. I mean, if I talk about plumbing pipes, I had only heard of GI 20 years back, and today we have options of I would say PVC, I would say stainless steel, and even composite. So that is where the customer tends to get confused. What are
Yeah,
your suggestions in terms of doing something which with which we can overcome this problem?
See, Nitin, the answer is in your question itself. The problem is the clients are not educative enough. So it's about, there's a gap. As you said, some are architects and engineers, but we should focus on what is the actual client requirement. What is the user requirement? And to fill in that gap, to cover that bridge, we should have like dialogue with industry experts so that they can give a better knowledge about new technologies and new materials and more durable what's new upcoming. So other than that, yeah, they should advertise themselves and tell about the optical thermal performance. For example, many of the brands including ALCOI, they calculate the U value, that is actually the sun, I think the sun glazing value, how much heat the glazing and the window will get in. So the client doesn't know these technical terms, so it would be easy to explain them that you have a quite proof and calculations on how the things are based and put forward to them. So other than that, yeah, of course, the selection and the pickup of the right glass is very important. So either it's DGU glass or high density glass, uh, or maybe the right choice of glass really matters. Other than that, uh, when during the time of installation, there should be very precision practice. Like you should have a proper team when a client can rely up to. So yeah, easy execution and like fast deliveries, that's one major concern, because it takes a lot of time for the fenestrations to like put it in the industry and then get back to the site. So yeah,
Correct.
the system has to be very transparent between the client and the industry.
So probably what you are trying to say is that the whole process of getting a product until execution is very defragmented. What we need
Yeah,
to do is fill the gaps in terms of the measurement cycle until the delivery cycle. Although I would want to submit that when we do customized projects, there is always a possibility of something going here and there. Why? Because when the project is ready, then the vendor is not ready, and when the vendor is ready, the project is not ready. So
yeah,
that's a very,
exactly.
that point is well taken. So I think two things I get from your answer. One is obviously we as industry fraternity need to do more about educating the customer of him to know about the product and its application so that he can take a better decision. That's one. And the second is probably we need, I mean, in an effort to bring down the times, something that we are looking at is now, I mean, normally most of the industry works like as if the frames go separately at site and the glasses go separately at site. So
Yeah,
as an industry, we're looking at is to pre-fit the glasses in the frames to send it at site so that two things will happen. Number one, the quality becomes more, I would say, consistent. Why? Because something that you made at site at the factory and it gets opened up for insertion of glass at the site obviously takes away the QC component. And the second thing that can be that once these installations are done, then a proper packaging and a proper water hose testing or those kind of testings happen at site so that the customer is assured of whatsoever he is getting. Small things here and there will always be there, but yes, as a consolidated effort, we can look at trying to do something more at one place, and the installation is only kept to fastening the windows and not doing other things at site. So that's probably something that can help the customer to be more confident about going about with the product. Right. So let's move on to the next question. So, what aspects should the fenestration industry focus on creating effective systems? I think we are moving around the same things again and again, but yes,
yeah, yeah. Actually, like we discussed in the last question itself. So it's about improvement and high performance of the fenestration systems we require. So we are
correct.
switching to the sustainable things. And sustainable fenestration is also one new word which people really don't know. So basically, to just summarize it, I would say that if we save on electricity for lighting and HVAC for cooling purposes, so natural fenestration is a perfect example for sustainable fenestration. So the less energy consumption, the more the fenestrations we use. So our ultimate goal is the sustainability. So
Correct.
yeah, the we should work on like premium qualities of fenestration so that the installation, there's no problem at the time of installation. And other than that, if you talk about sustainability, then we should explore more of recyclable materials for long term
Correct.
things. And everlasting, of course, everlasting and durable materials is what the client always requires. So yeah, the premium quality and weather protection, so are few things to be incorporated for the same.
Basically, technological I mean, upgradation so as to achieve better performance.
Yeah.
Correct. So, okay, I mean, this kind of revolves around the same subject again and again. So, just coming
Yeah.
up to the probably interaction that I want to have with you is that what all that the fraternity, like architects and the vendors, do in terms of activities, events, etc. What are your suggestions wherein the customer can be engaged in a more effective way, I mean, so as to give him more substance around the subject. And here I'm not talking only about fenestration, but architecture as a whole, because sometimes we come across customers who, in India it is like that. People know how to design their houses and they are the contractors themselves for the houses. So
Yeah.
it's not a very professional way of actually going about building houses. Sometimes the architects have to give up on their design intent and follow the architect's intent, and sometimes the contractors have to give up their skill and follow the customer's intent. So what is it that you think the entire industry as a whole can do so as to bring all the customers on board in terms of respecting architecture and respecting whatever products that are coming up in the industry?
Okay, so like for example, I would say if I am a contractor and I am making my own building, So a contractor doesn't have a knowledge of structural loads. So here the fenestration comes in a very important, it plays a very vital role because the load calculations, and if you use a curtain wall, so they should help to make a proper sheet of compilation of what loads. So they should follow a basic safety standards. This is one. Second, as an architect, if it would be great to have a lot of color and material options. For example, we usually have two, three, or maybe maximum of four, five finishes. But like if an architect thinks like out of the context or something very new, so you should explore more color options and finishes for the profiles. So of course, the fenestration looks best when you have a sleeker profiles. So, with a great mechanism, that's very important. So if you reduce and cut down the size of the profile, then the mechanism is very difficult to use, then that would work. So for in aesthetics part, if I talk about, then we should work on more sleek profiles, minimal sleek profiles, and handle details, maybe the lockable things, and the fly mesh which you provide, it should be like aesthetically pleasing as well, rather than just putting a mosquito that thing. So of course, functionality and aesthetic both are very important to cater in the field. So like for large spans, there should be perfect alignment at the site to cross check it. So overall, I would say there should be a very user friendly mechanics, because the technical things a layman would never understand. So as a client, he should be like pre-informed about things and have more variety uh, for the selection part.
Correct. So, I mean, it's a good kind of pitch that you made on behalf of the fenestration industry of how things should be for the customer. And at the same time, probably I would like to add that, the first thing that the customer needs to really build grounds upon is to understand the architecture of his, house or the building that he's going in for, and what's its requirement. Then he'd be, sometimes it happens that customers stick to one product which they like from its aesthetic point of view, and they want to fit in into their building somehow or the other, which may or may not, would be very, I would say, appealing to the architect to use in the design that they have made. So I think the first thing is from day one, the customer be told in detail about the architecture of the building, what is the intent that we are trying to achieve. We cannot have, a brick facade and at the same time Italian marble on the elevation. Why? Because,
Yeah,
I mean, okay, it's a
those are
good
two
contrast,
different like your text. Yeah.
a good context to have. But then, even if that is probably recommended, then it should be very well in the mind of the architect and the customer that this is what we are trying to do. Maybe it is experimentative, but at the end of the day, we're going to live with the results the way they are. So I would say more industry people be involved. Customers who want to build their house and buildings before they start with their project, they collect a lot of information of what all is possible from the architect that they're going to engage, and also other, I would say, building stakeholders, or let's say industry stakeholders, so that during the lifeline of the project, they are somewhat informed about whatsoever materials that they are going to use. That may make everyone's life easy, because these days, probably with more and more customers or consumers traveling abroad, they simply want Italy to be, a part of India wherein they want everything Italian. So if it is German, then they want everything to be German. So my message to them is that, we are Indians, so let's leave the architecture more Indian than trying to convert it into a different country altogether. So that were my last words. Any last words that probably you would like to share with our consumers or customers here?
See, I would say, like for as a client, when it comes to fenestration, fenestration people should have more large experience centers where people can actually go and visit and have a look at all the profiles available. So that would be like easy for the client's purpose, because we know when architects deal with the companies, they know the details. But as a person, as a client, if I talk about, they should know about the warranties and AMCs and long-term goals and durabilities. So that would really help the client to educate along with apart from the technical things.
Correct. So very well said, Janshi, and it was a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you very much. We welcome you to our office whensoever we are visiting Chandigarh, and we'd love to meet you whensoever we are in Delhi next. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nitin. It was a pleasure. Same here. Thank you so
Bye
much.
bye.